Hey everybody, back with another video, maybe. I don't know if I'm actually going to publish this or not, but I figured might as well film since I'm screwing around. Yesterday I didn't film this. My joust has been down for a while and I got motivated since we're all stuck at home. I got motivated, pulled it out, fixed my joust. I think I socketed one of the decoder chips and stuff and it's been running good so far, but it's on I'm monitoring it basically. I don't know if that was the problem or not, but I think it was the decoder chip again. I had fixed that before in a previous video that I might link to the series. But also my Stargate was resetting. Now the monitor had been going out of sync, Robotron working. So this is my little Williams row here, and I wanted to get everything up and running. The monitor was like losing sync, and I don't think it has ever been recapped. I'm gonna have to go back and look at my own thread when I actually picked this up. Did I actually do anything to this monitor? I don't know if I did, because the caps look original. So I don't know if I'm going to recap it or not. I think I adjusted the sync and sprayed some deoxit on them, on the pots down there, to see if that would help it. But after I did that, the game was resetting. And see, I already tore into this thing. I wasn't actually going to film anything. I was just going to get it working. And I think my voltage was like around 4.7 volts in these old Defender style power supplies. Now this one does have the additional 5 volt crowbar circuit card on it, so it's not as bad as a Defender power supply. But it is all original, and that's why I figured I would just film it real quick, because since I've got this working, and I have to go back and look to see, actually it wasn't working when I picked it up. It might have been just the monitor sync issue that needed to be adjusted, and that's why I've never done anything with it. But it's original power supply, and if I look here, serial number is 543 something. But we had a thread on this in Clove recently about numbers matching games, like something that's just all original. 548 365, and then on this board you can see it's upside down though. 548 365, 548 365, and that one kind of wore off a little bit, but it is original as far as I know, that board, except for I did do a battery mod on it. Maybe it had a bad RAM or something. And even the monitor. If I get my light up here. 548 365. This Stargate is 100% as it was from the factory, warts and all. Control panel is in great shape. It's got that hard case. Now the only thing is the original Stargate bezel that was on here, I still have it, but it was plexiglass instead of the glass, and it is totally jacked up. So I picked up this, I think I traded Daryl DJ DNS for this glass one, which is an original, just not original to this cabinet, unfortunately. But that's the only thing that is not original to this game. And so what I figured we'd do is I can see actually, I can see when I pulled off from the transformer into the power supply, there is some burn marks there. So this thing needs to be repinned out, new connectors put on the power supply. Power supply works fine. Maybe I'll do a 5 volt adjustment mod on it. I think I've shown that in the past on my joust cabinet, so I might not film all this. Who knows? I will test the capacitors. You can see that the transistors there are original, 1981. And if I can get that in the light. It should be 1981. So yeah, all original, 1981. And then I might repin out the power supply connector there, get rid of those pinball style insertion. I forget what they're called. Damn. IDC type of style connectors, and actually put trifurcon pins and stuff on all the power ones. I'll leave the non-power ones alone, but the power ones, that one and this one, I'll probably repin out. Maybe I'll repin the power going to the soundboard too. So that's what I'm going to do, and hopefully that fixes our voltage problem and our reset goes away. And I might resocket some of these chips and just spray some deoxit on the CPU and decoder chips, etc. So that's what I'm going to do in the video, or at least who knows how much I feel. Let's see if I can do this here. I'm just going to test the caps real quick and verify the fuses, but I figured what I would do is film real quick with my ESR meter. Put this on the back side like this, and we'll start testing some caps. So this is the big one. Alright, that one looks good to me. If it's beeping once, I'm not even going to look at exactly what the ESR is. I'm just saying if it's beeping once, it's probably good. I don't have it connected. Come on now. There we go. There's one. I think this is one. These are two here. Alright, so I think that's all the caps. Did I miss any? Those two, these two, except for the big B plus filter, not B plus filter, the big filter cap there. What is that? 18,000 microfarad. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to replace any of these caps, even though this is all original. I'm not going to replace those caps because they all look good. I am just going to double check these fuses. Whoops. Alright, so I think the caps are good. Doesn't mean, you know, just because they have low ESR, obviously doesn't mean that their capacitance is measuring correctly, but I'm not going to take them out of circuit, obviously, to measure that. Visual condition looks okay. Yes, you could do a cap kit. These are original caps, but unless there is too much noise on the DC, that was too much like ripple voltage. We'll measure AC volts on the DC line and make sure it's within spec per the Williams guide. The other thing I just wanted to check, because these are a lot of these fuses are original, I just wanted to check the resistance on each fuse and see if I need to clean up the fuse holders or the fuses themselves. And I'm going to do that actually anyway. So there's 0.1. Oh, you can't even see the damn thing. There we go. So this one has got 0.5, 0.1, 0.1, 0.1. I doubt we're going to get much better than that, but let me see if I can remove this one, clean it up, check, make sure it's the right amps and everything. Alright, probably going out of order, so I'll have to fix this later, but back at the cabinet here, got the power supply in. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. And I know what we're doing here is, here's my little map here, and we're going to go to test point 2, the 12 volts AC. Now that's 12 volts DC, and we're getting 12 volts there. And if we go to test point 3, we should get 14 volts DC. But one of the things we want to do is check for ripple voltage. So we want to go to AC on this. and we're getting 0.23 volts on test point 2, and I think that's supposed to be below 0.7 volts. Located that right there. And if we come to this other test point, there we go. Getting to test point 3, we're getting 0.015 volts. Let me sit down here. Yeah, 0.015 volts. We'll come to our 5 volt test point, which is up here. See, the other thing about this power supply is it has this daughter board in there, so it makes it difficult to try to get to all the test points. See if I can even go to the 5 volts. I just went to the other side of the resistor feeding that 5 volt LED, and we're getting 0.003 volts AC and 5.03 volts DC. So the power supply is working good. We don't know what voltage we're getting at all the way up here at the board. I repinned this connector here. I repinned this connector as well as this connector coming from the transformer. So and all new headers everywhere on the power supply board, and I also put a new header connection on this daughter board. So, but we're getting 5.0 volts there, and if we want to test our negative 5 volts, maybe at that resistor. Okay, at R14, right there, we're getting 12 volts. Sucks working behind the cabinet like this. So we're getting 12 volts, good 12 volts. And good negative 5 volts, so negative 4.9. Is there anything other test points? Good, and we're getting 12 volts. Let's just go back and measure the ripple voltage again. Alright, I'm back at test point 2, 12.8 volts DC. We're getting about 12 volts there. And if we go to AC voltage, 0.225 volts. Is that supposed to be 0.7? I think it's supposed to be, it's up to 0.7 volts, so as long as you're less than, I mean, we're less than half a volt, so I think our capacitors are all fine. I mean, they're doing their job as far as that's concerned. So let's go, let me pause and let's measure the voltage at the board. Alright, so I'm hooked up to a TTL chip here, positive, negative, and we are getting 4.9 volts now. So I think before, now granted I didn't have it hooked up with the same test leads and everything, but I think before we were in like the 4.6 volt range. So our voltage drop and our improvement, I mean, this connector here was burnt a little bit. Replaced those headers all over the power supply board. This daughter board that's sticking up, a lot of Stargates don't have it because this is originally a Defender power supply, but this is the over voltage protection, the crowbar circuit. So if there's something does go wrong with the power board, this will shunt the voltage back and probably blow a fuse, is what I would expect to save the PCBs. But by just repinning this connector here and repinning this connector here on the main CPU board, I mean, we've got a good 4.9 volts, and I don't even have to make any additional modifications to the power supply board at all. No new caps. I didn't replace a single part. All we did is replace the headers, new connectors, and we made a 0.4 volt difference in the voltage. Now, I think our game is playing, and our game's playing. Now, I still need to cap this monitor. So yeah, let me figure out what I'm going to film next, how to edit this thing. Okay, yeah, I was doing it correctly. You don't want more than 0.7 volts AC when going to test point number 2, and you don't want more than 0.005 volts AC when going to test point number 1 on your 5-volt line. So from a ripple voltage standpoint, so that you could also just go straight across this capacitor on the Defender power supply, the big 18,000 microfarad, because basically the negative side of this big capacitor here goes to ground, and this positive side goes to that test point there from the bridge rectifier. So I think we're good. Oh yeah, I didn't film this, but and I'm not going to take it back out to film it, but I did clean up all of the fuses there and verify them, and really the resistance improved a little bit. I think I got all the way down to like 0 ohms of resistance on a few of them, and the 1 amp fuse over here was like down to 0.4 ohms, but I didn't film it because I wasn't sure whether I was going to come back and even make this a video. But let me come back and just measure ripple voltage one more time. Test point 3, we have negative 13.46 volts, and should be around that negative 14 volts DC. We got the negative voltage there, and I don't think it matters to measure ripple voltage there, but if we want to switch to AC, 0.015. Basically now I am on test point 2, and we can't have more than 0.7. We have 0.213, and we're reading 12 volts, and that should never go lower than 11 volts. I mean, it's supposed to be around 12.8, 12 volts DC unregulated, but you definitely don't want that generating the 5 volt voltage after it goes through something. It's already gone through the bridge rectifier. It must be going through a voltage regulator. Oh yeah, it's probably the 2N6057. After that it'll be 5 volts, I guess, and being controlled by this IC1 right there, most likely, I would assume. But anyway, our voltage is good there. Our ripple voltage is good. Now we're measuring AC on the 5-volt line, 0.003, and it shouldn't be more than 0.005. So technically we're still good there. Measuring 5.04 volts at the board and 4.9 volts at this CPU board, so good to go there. I just need to cap this monitor now, take this out and recap it, and then I'll be done getting Stargate. Okay, I have everything recapped. I recapped the chassis, and also dang, I'm not really prepared here, but reflowed solder on these connectors here, and actually I don't know, the connectors for the monitor signal didn't look great, so it could have been that issue. Just a simple reflow of those connectors. I also reflowed the yoke and obviously the monitor RGB connectors and the sync connectors, but it very well could have been the sync. If I'm looking at it, yeah, over here definitely looked bad before I reflowed it. Now it looks pretty good, if you can see that. But there was a couple caps that are testing bad in, with ESR. This one here is a 447 or 4.7. What is that? It's a 4.7 50 volt. That had to have been C408, I guess. C408, and this one here is 3.3. Now you can't see it with the light. 3.3, right? 160 volt, and that must be C412. And this one tests bad as well. Well, 3.3. No, I guess it's okay. 8 ESR, which is pretty high, but it is a low microfarad cap. So I don't know. You would think it'd be better than that, but that might not be bad. So it does say test good. So this one was pretty interesting. So I'm going to look at the manual real quick just to see where this was at. It is a 4.7 50 volt, but I guess this arcade shop probably sent me a 160 volt cap. So I'm thinking it was 408. Let me look at the manual. The other thing is I'm not going to do it on camera, but I was trying to measure the capacitance of it as well, and I couldn't even get it past the nanofarad reading. So, and it is supposed to be 44.7 microfarad. So I did find it on the schematic, C408 right there. If it was C407, does that have anything to do? I don't think so. I mean, this is kind of like on the power B plus line. I don't know exactly what's going on there, but C408's there. Who knows? I doubt this might had something to do with it, but I doubt it. I think it was a cold solder joint on the connector for the sink. So that is what I'm thinking. But anyway, I'm going to put this back in the cabinet and see if we got all of our monitors. Back here at the cabinet, got the chassis put back in. And I'm not obviously filming everything, but I do want to say that I love Geo7s for how easy they are to remove from the from the monitor itself, the monitor frame. You have the degauss coil that you unplug. You unplug your DAG grounding strap to your neck board and unplug the yoke, 2 screws, boom, the thing's out. You know, super easy. And so I figured since I already had this, might as well put it on the CR7 Restore. I already did a restore on it. So that just show you the results here, hopefully. As things are heating up a little bit. Let me go back to heater voltage here. Alright. Because I had it shut off just to make sure the guns were cool. And I could probably reactivate the green and blue gun and get it even a little bit better, I think. Let's see what we're at. Basically, I reactivated it. I'll show you in a second. It was good to start with. I was able to get everything good, low tracking, everything right from the get-go. But when I went to emissions, it was pretty low. So I figured I reactivated it. Then I did a low restore. Then the red gun looked terrible emission-wise. Reactivated the red gun. That brought the red gun back. And now we're looking pretty good. I mean, I'm not going to screw with it anymore. I had let the guns cool, so I know it's pretty good at this point. And I think I need to go back and check the manual because I think you are supposed to let it like kind of warm up before you start running some tests. But it's that's what you want to see on low tracking, like being able to adjust everything into the cutoff and it just not even barely move at all. And then we go to our high emissions. I mean, we almost have full emissions. This thing is awesome. All right, so that's it. I just wanted to show the results of the restore, not the whole process. And I will plug it in, probably check B+. I might film that real quick in case it's off. And then put on our anode cup, obviously. And power it up. Have the game powered up. But first I'm checking my transformer voltage, my isolation transformer voltage coming in. I believe it's a slight step up transformer because we have 128 volts here and I think I'm at 120 or 100. Yeah, I have to be at 120, so I'm not sure if it's an exact 1-to-1 transformer down there, but 128, and you want this between I have to go back and look, but no more than 132 volts, I think, coming into the monitor chassis there. So, all right, it's the next day because I ran into an issue when I put this back in there last night, and I didn't film it, unfortunately. Powered it on, got high voltage for a second, went into shutdown, had 150 something volts on the B plus, and I was thinking, I'm like, oh crap, I forgot, I did something bad. The arcade shop cap kit comes with a resistor that's on the B plus side called R908. I didn't actually replace it. I'm curious. I need to reach out and find out why he included this, if it's a common failure point. But what I did do is I desoldered my 908, one side of it, to measure it, to make sure it was reading 47K, and it was, and I forgot to solder it back in. I think that's my problem, but now this is how, a video that I wasn't going to film turns into doing so much more, and you run into issues, and you touch stuff, and you break stuff, and hopefully I didn't break it too bad. So I'm going to power it on, I'm going to get my multimeter, hook up to this resistor back here for my positive lead, and then just a chassis ground, which is tied to the frame, and test B+. All right, we're going to test the power supply. This is the G07 manual. It basically says check B+1, adjust the B+ with R909. I'm going to show that in a second, but it says allow the tube to warm up for 5 minutes with no signal applied. Connect the multimeter to test point 91. Adjust to 120 volts, if you guys can see that. So that's the process we're going to use. I don't know if this is test point 901, but this is where you test the B+. It's definitely tied to this part of the resistor. And then we just take our black lead and stick it to the metal frame here, because that is tied to the chassis ground. Let's see what we get, I guess. I think I have everything connected right. Hopefully I fixed it. Sounds like I did. Okay, we're getting 102 because I had turned that down. I know it's going to be difficult to kind of see this, but there's a little, let me see if I'll take the camera off. That's where my tool is sticking into the pot for the B+ adjustment, so that's where it's sticking at. So let's go back, and we do have good high, good B+, not good B+, but it's better than 150 something and not being adjustable. It was what I was getting before. You can actually hear the static increasing, so that's too much. 120.7, pretty close. 118. Okay, so we're at 120.3. Let's. I'm going to pause, let it warm up for about 5 minutes, and then come back and take it. Actually, while we're checking, the G07 manual actually has how you can check for X-ray emission. I basically did this by removing that resistor and blasting the B1 voltage to 100, and maxed out at like 160 volts almost. And obviously, it went into shutdown mode. That's why I wasn't getting any image. So I didn't have to use a high voltage probe to measure at the anode, but we could do that. Follow this X-ray emission check. It tells you to do a short, what does it say? By shorting collector emitter of the power regulator X04. But yeah, so I'm not going to do that, but basically did something similar by just removing that resistor from arcade shop. Let's see, what was it? Resistor 908. That wasn't soldered in, so that definitely created a high B plus situation. So let's see how we're doing after warm up. 120.2. We're pretty much dead on at this point. The other thing, I haven't actually followed this procedure before that I thought might be interesting is in the manual is your white scale, gray scale tracking. So it tells you exactly how to do this. You can do it with no signal connected, so which is what we're at. Set the red and green drive controls to the mechanical center. Turn the common G2 screen control and 3 cutoff controls to the minimum fully clockwise. So let me do that and be right back. I'm running out of battery here, but this picture here shows you the neck board right there. So we have our green and red drive at the mechanical center, and the red, green, blue cutoff all the way counterclockwise to the left. Double checking that. And we have our screen control all the way to the left, counterclockwise. And it says turn the G2 screen voltage, screen control, up until you see the very first faint of color. Then back off to the edge of visibility. Do not touch associated cutoff control right here. And these should all stay fully counterclockwise. Then slowly turn whatever color we see. We're going to turn the other 2 colors until we match the first, and then we should actually have a gray picture. Then we're going to have to turn the game on at that point. But before I do that, let's just double check our B plus voltage again. 120.5. That sounds good to me. So I will pause, charge the camera, and then film this from the front side. All right, we're at the front there. And what's kind of interesting, yeah, I might have, whatever. Hopefully you can hear me okay over here. But what's interesting is all your cutoff controls are supposed to remain counterclockwise. And you turn up your screen control just until you get a little bit of color there. And then you want to back it off. So they're probably about kind of like right there probably. So it's just visible, and that's green. And now what we want to do is turn up the red and blue until we get in the middle. So we turn up the red and the blue until they match. There's a little bit of blue. And we're going to turn up the red. Till we get a gray picture. Is that gray? Let me look. That looks pretty gray to me. So that looks good. And then we're done basically setting the cutoff at this point. You never touch the green cutoff because obviously the green what is probably stronger the gun, so it was showing first. That's why it was showing first as we were adjusting the G2 voltage. The green showed first, and then we had it increase the amount of or basically probably decrease the negative bias is what I'm assuming is happening on the red and blue, so they would emit at the same strength level as the green, and now we have a gray picture. I know it probably doesn't look gray to you guys, but it looks pretty gray to me. So I'm thinking that's good. Now we have to hook up the either the TPG, or I'm going to use the Stargate hatch color bar to do the rest of the adjustment. All right, I messed with off camera. I messed with the crosshatch pattern here. This is common, that little thing, that little flashing up there at the top, common in Williams games. You can try to adjust the vertical size to get rid of it, or the vertical linearity, I think is how you say it. But my box sizes with the linearity look pretty good. The width is a little bit big, but I think it's going to be fine. I've got it maxed out to cover most of the screen. And I could get a little bit bigger on the vertical size. Let me do that real quick. See if I can get it just a little bit better. Yeah, and so I think in the game that will look pretty good, and then we'll get rid of that part at the top. A little bit of convergence, a little bit of red convergence issues going there, but looks pretty good. Let's see here. Now let me go to the next color bar. It might be difficult to see in the camera, but this looks pretty good. We're supposed to adjust the drive now, but it's kind of hard for me to see. Just become, I think they're dead on just at being in the center. Hard for me to see while looking through the camera myself. I'm going to leave it alone. I think that looks pretty damn good. I'm just going to leave it right there. My pinks, my teal, yellow, white, black. I don't have a lot of bleeding on the colors. Just maybe, let me turn down the red just a tad. See if my white looks a little bit better. Yeah, I think that's good. Let's go back. I'll pause and be right back. All right, and the last step of this process is to turn down your screen control, your G2 screen control, because it was still, I saw a little hint of color when I was looking at the black screen, and now the black, it's like nothing but black. I mean, this monitor looks awesome. But that is the color white balancing for a G07 or grayscale, or what do you call it? White balance grayscale tracking. And that's why your cutoff on your neck boards should not all be at the midpoint. If you do it correctly, you're adjusting your cutoff or your negative G1 bias is what I think you're doing, based off of the highest gun that's emitting, based off of the G2 voltage that you're adjusting with the screen control. So if, I know that probably doesn't make sense if this is the only video you watched, but some of my restore videos, this is how I'm learning it as I go, is by doing the restore videos kind of, and all the tube restores, reading about that is helping me understand what these cutoff measurements and what you're doing with the neckboard controls actually to the voltage of the monitor itself. So anyway, this video kind of went on a long time, but kind of a day in the life of the video. I think I'm going to create a series. It's called A Day in the Life of the Arcade Collector, because this is the kind of crap you have to go through. You start with a power situation, get the game out, end up capping a monitor, restore the monitor with a tube restore, go through, you have to white balance it again, set all the controls again, and you know, something that probably could have taken an operator, or they would have only taken like maybe 30 minutes to fix the power supply or threw a new power supply in there. I spent maybe a better part of, 12 hours over, 4 or 5 days messing with it. But let's play a quick game. All right, let's let it go through a track mode real quick. I know this video is getting long and stuff, but definitely happy with the way it looks. I think is that line longer? I don't know. I already put it back in the row, and it looks like maybe it's not 100% perfect there. Centered? I don't know. I think it probably is, I guess. It looks pretty good. I just like, I'll start a game after we see the flashing, but the colors and the dark, the black levels are awesome. I think the colors are right on the money, but maybe it doesn't look like it through the camera. Who knows? What a fun game, though. Hard too. But yeah, this is why, like, I don't know, I learned so much messing with these freaking games and taking my time and trying to understand what's going on, follow the documented process that they do. You can see my high score is not very high. I can't even beat Fred Williams. Yeah, it looks like the screen might need to come over a little bit to the left. Maybe if I adjust the horizontal hold and move it over just slightly to the left. Yep, I think that's true. I'm gonna have to do that off camera, I guess, because I'm not gonna pull this game back out. But let's play one game real quick. And I suck at this game. That usually happens to me because I want to catch all the guys and then do a warp. Hopefully I can do it. Oh man. Dang it. I'm totally jacked up. Yeah, I suck, but every once in a while I'll have a good game though, and be able to like do the warp and all that. Probably out of smart bombs now. Alright, that's it for this video. Whoops, that's it for this video, guys. Day in the life of an arcade collector. Your game goes down, you spend like, you know, three days screwing with it. So hopefully you enjoyed this video and it helps somebody with their games.